going through some of these, I don't know, the TV tuner, whatever, that I have, that I've been doing this week, or that they've thrown me this week. And this morning, they announced that Finland's president is, or Finland, I don't know their proper word, I don't know. They have a prime minister. Again, he looks like a prime minister, but like I don't want to. If he's a president, I don't know how they're working that. So we'll just stick at president at the moment, since I'm whatever. I'm in a president territory myself. So it's kind of like, how do you know this Flatiron district thing has gotten like as flat as a pancake and the children are seriously in trouble? Well, there's a baby formula shortage. Check that box. There's a president of Finland thinking of joining NATO. Is that the Finnish line? The Americans, when you run a race, they go by the finish line results. Just saying. It's been a thing since I was a kid. So now this Finnish president, not being American, being a Finnish, and he is a president, he looks properly White House. He's thinking of joining this thing called NATO. Now, my only problem is that somewhere in the U.S. is the not us. And they are trying to flatten like a pancake communications, education, money distribution, and it is wreaking havoc on the American children and gardening. For real. So then I look to see two gardening families in agriculture for the Industrias Carrera. They start off with the not us, something more Lloyd Austin. I don't know why they put those two names in a face inside of my war theater. But here he is, speaking on behalf of the us. I'm like, my us has been withheld from my person at the gods. The gods that know things and the gods at market makers. But there is part of the problem speaking on behalf of the us. Another problem. Another sign of the times that something is wrong. Because I didn't hire him. I don't know whose team he works for. For me, my life is not showing up right. My children did not show up right. I was withheld from the man I was built and born for in respectable things. And there's somebody else speaking in the us, which is an English word. There's a problem. So, this is what it looks like on the television. In sounding boards with storyboard.
Janet Chamberlain dove into what's behind the problem and what parents can do about it. Plus, glass animals are, by some measures, the biggest British bands.
Not so worried about them. And here's their messenger talking about in flat ions at cosmic nursery and cosmic gas and space odyssey into deep space for X and the 9.
News expected today on the cost of living in this country. Gas prices hit another record high overnight, and that's part of why lots of other essentials like groceries are also more expensive. Is there any relief in sight? That is the question. New numbers out today are expected to show we may be turning.
Those, for me, look like asphyxiation devices. They look like some kind of combustible burning device that is trying to asphyxiate humankind. In some places, they call them weapons of mass destruction. Unfortunately, the baby boomers seem to think that they're some kind of gas-guzzling, money-making machine, and it'll last long enough for their time frame where they don't really suffer too much from the effects. It's a problem, the way that this capitalism is being whatever, with the pursuit of happiness nowhere to be found in America. At least not in the 13 colonies region. Definitely not in New Englandish.
Turning the corner, but not fast enough for most Americans. Nancy Cordes is at the White House, where President Biden says tackling inflation is his top domestic priority. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning, Nate. And President Biden is going to be heading to Illinois later this morning to talk with farmers about the very real impact that inflation and supply chain shortages are having on their ability to grow food. And the farmers we spoke to warned that we could see more empty store shelves in the coming months.
I know the families all across America are hurting because of inflation.
President Biden Tuesday called inflation the country's top economic challenge and pointed the finger at two causes.
The first cause of inflation is a once-in-a-century pandemic. A second cause, Mr. Putin's war in Ukraine.
And U.S. farmers are bearing the brunt, facing higher prices for fertilizer, seeds, and diesel fuel.
So you're looking over 550 plus or $60 just to fill up one time in my tractor.
John Boyd is a fourth-generation soybean and cattle farmer in Virginia. He says his upfront costs have roughly doubled in 1 year.
We weren't able to pay for seeds, so the struggle is real, and the struggle is going to be real for the American people in the coming months as it relates to food.
Krista Swanson, who grows corn and soybeans in Illinois, worries what will happen to those who can't cover the new costs.
Farming is a passion and it's a way of life, but it also is a livelihood, and so you have to be able to make some money to stay in it.
On Capitol Hill, Republicans argued the White House hasn't done enough to help struggling Americans.
President Biden's mismanagement of the economy and inflation has really trapped Americans in an inflation nightmare.
Mr. Biden argued the GOP is serving up blame, but no solutions.
And what's the congressional Republican plan? They don't want to solve inflation by lowering your costs. They want to solve it by raising your taxes and lowering your income.
President Biden said
They've been doing that for a while, hence the inflat iron or ion.
said yesterday he is
These are advanced anagrams, just saying.
considering releasing.
If somebody at least gave me my Zodiac boat's number or somebody else to look up to, just one, or Special Task Force Mark, which would be my optimal, I wouldn't have to be doing these videos.
Trump's
Just
tariffs
saying.
on Chinese goods in order to try to bring down the cost of goods here in the U.S. And this morning, all eyes are going to be on the monthly Consumer Price Index report. Economists looking for any sign, Gail, that inflation has peaked.
Everybody hopes it has. Thank you very much, Nancy.
No, Gail, no. No, we don't hope that it has. This woman doesn't hope that it has. I have to fix my dance card. Now, who in the world do you speak to about such things? Now, how do you know that you are from just a little epidemiological outbreak is one thing. When they all jump into the frying pan and the disease is at like catastrophic level, it's pandemic. There's a lot. It's peritrichus. There's a lot involved. And then how do you know you get to endemic? Endemic, the end is usually the finish line. And here we are today, which is like May, whatever, 2022. And I see a Finnish president considering joining something called a NATO, which then has an OTAN underneath. Gets really confusing at overtime in the Alexander and Nicole kind of a way.
Months after Russia invaded the country, leaders in Finland say they are now backing a bid to join NATO. And they are not alone. Neighboring Sweden is considering a similar decision. It is exactly what Russian President Putin said he did not want to see happen. And the Kremlin is vowing to retaliate in some unknown way if any country joins the Western alliance.
When you ask how they see possible Finnish joining.
Right. Okay, so now, I don't know how to speak Finnish. I see that they gave him a cryptic. These are the cryptic, like, you have different symbols. We cryptic it over to the Latin system. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, so if I butcher it, I am sorry. But it's Ninisto? It's a long I, because it's two of them. I mean, it's beautifully written in crypt, or in glyph. Ninisto. That's like salutations is what it looks like to me in like hieroglyph. And it says Finnish president. At Embedded Deep Space Nine project. I just find this so, it's like I'm frightened of what all of this may or may not mean in real world terms.
Well, my response would be that you caused this. Look at the mirror.
Meanwhile, the war in Ukraine rages on. Ukrainian forces made some key gains.
Now, if the building that was done in America prior to the automobile breakout and all of this post-World War enon of sorts, and this like explosion of the speeding up of the destruction of the environment and the explosion of populations in the wrong categories, causing massive droughts, famines, food shortages, prior to my arrival, might I add. And whatever may have been built and was like, I mean, the forefathers, like the Lincolns and the Thomas Jeffersons and like all of the beautiful English looking, according to the Americans, they're the Great Britain of wherever they really came from, nobody knows. And then they're, without invention, we don't really know, but they all look like a brotherhood of man. And then there's what I grew up in, which looks more like this. If that's the building blocks of society when I arrived, I mean, it was, there was no heroes taught. There's no, here are the figures in your clandestine. There was nothing. I just saw a bus go by. It said yada or nada. I have no idea which organized criminal is running that campaign, because there's no way for me to find out in real world. They have blocked me in and isolated me so long that I am so disconnected from any of their realities and what kind of game they're trying to run on the system. But what I'll tell you is, I know I got something that feels like this in New York City. As far as I got a mayor that I don't know how he got elected. He wasn't in my hero box. It wasn't in my lunch box. I mean, like, as an Avenger and as the Pierre de Resistance. None of this is really, like, at set executive and director and some administration, like, whatever we gotta weed through. This is, like, I mean, this could be easy in a quiet conversation. I just, again, there's no over 6 foot to look up to these days. Star 1978 in like a meaningful relationship anyway. Star 1978, Star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken. It's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.